Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blindspot, a crazy good episode with a lot of interesting things that went down. Obviously, Kurt and Patterson look more into this whole Avery situation. As we found out last episode, she was meeting with Roman. That whole situation with Kurt was a setup. And it turns out that she had not only met with Roman that one time, she met with him repeatedly. She'd even met up with the guy named Max, but his real name's Diedrich. So, like, everything about that situation was a setup. And it's like, the question is, well, why? They bring Jane in on it because they end up finding out there's a recording for her trying to call for help, but it was from 4 days ago, so that proves that she's still alive and everything. Which Jane is still rightfully so pissed because it's like, well, it doesn't matter if she's still alive, which it does matter, but the fact of the matter is she wouldn't be in this situation if you had, like, she could have, like, there's no telling, this recording's from like 4 days ago, she might be dead now, and that would still be your fault because you hid the truth from me. So they're going to Germany to kind of track things down, trying to figure this whole situation out. She brings Clint, who was not, who still, got feelings for Jay, which it's even under these circumstances, still a good guy he is, because he's like, well, what happened with, your daughter and Kurt wasn't his fault. It wasn't an accident, wasn't it? But for Jane, it's still the thing of you lied about it. It's what pissed her off the most. And that's still, I don't remember if I brought this up before, but that's still a question that should be asked. Like, would things be any different? It'd be better if Kurt had told her and that she didn't have to find out under these circumstances, which, yes, Kurt did tell her, but only because it was a situation that he waited till like the last moment where she's like really looking forward to like, hey, I'm gonna look into this, my whole daughter situation. And it's like he waited until then to finally tell her. It's like not the moment they met up again, which is like, it's still an awkward conversation. So how do you really bring that up? And it's like I said, you understand where Kurt is coming from, like not wanting to lose her, because especially if he had told her from the beginning, she still would look at him the same way, because it's like, yeah, he might have told you the truth, but he still would be the one responsible for your daughter's death, and it'd be hard to look at you even then knowing it's an accident, just like just like now. But, at the same time, it's like he should have told her the truth, because this was something that was, especially if he knew at the time something that she didn't even herself know about having a daughter and everything. So that's what makes it even worse. So, you did see Kurt and Clint bumping heads. What was kind of interesting is it didn't happen as much as I thought. I thought there was going to be a lot more bad blood than it was, but it's like, oh, they disagreed about certain things, like, oh, you should have handled it like this, well, you should have handled this like that, but ultimately, they were both here for the good reason, because they were both trying to help Jane. They ended up ultimately tracking Avery down and rescuing her. What really took me by surprise was like her holding the gun against Jane. At first, because I was wondering about that, I was like, what if this is all a trap? Because she did something too. She kind of did a code during the video, kind of showing the fingers, trying to give them an idea where her location. I was like, that felt like she was like, what made her decide to do something like that? I was like, was Roman training her or something like that? I was like, is this all some big, even more elaborate trap or something like that? It's like, not really. It's just, I guess either Roman trained her to do that, or it was just because she herself is like, she spent so much time alone, like, there's stuff she's picked up. I mean, we don't know how long it's been since her and Roman have been in cahoots. Like I said, they met multiple times, not just that one time that we found out about last episode. Which for her, it's like, you're my uncle, so it's like, of course I'm going to trust you. And he told her all these lies about Jane. And it's like, oh, like, I didn't, Jane confides in her. It's like, I didn't abandon you. Like, that's because for her, it's like, Roman put me in this situation. He sold me out and everything. Because I guess in her head, it was just like, I'm being paid to do this. Like I said, like, she has no attachment to Jane. And maybe she felt like, who cares? I'm probably getting paid and taken care of. And also because it's like, well, Roman's family, he would never steer me wrong. If he's saying my mom's a bad person, then I'm doing the right thing. But it did seem like she was genuinely kind of curious about certain aspects. It makes me wonder, like, the way she was talking to Jane, she never brought up the whole, like, well, how can you really say that because you don't really know anything? I'm wondering, did she actually learn about that from Kurt, or did Roman actually ever tell her that, like, that Jane doesn't have her memories? Maybe she thought, like, oh, the fact of the matter is Kurt, he's a bad guy too, he's just lying. Or maybe she thought to herself, like, no, Jane's got him manipulated, like, I don't know. It's hard to say like what. We'll just kind of have to wait because it seems like without the next episode seems like it's aiming at more like what's going on with the whole situation. So we'll kind of have to definitely wait till then to kind of find out. But it was just kind of an interesting thing. Like for her, it's like I don't trust Roman now, but I don't trust you either. I mean, because it's like she doesn't know her, so. But for Jane, it's like, you're my daughter. I would do anything to protect you. Just trust me on this. Don't listen to Roman's lies and manipulation. I mean, she did bring up points of like, well, the fact of the matter is you're going to lock me up in a cage like him. It's like, well, Roman's done a lot of terrible things. He's killed and hurt a lot of people. That's why we did that. But the fact of the matter is, Roman kind of skipped over the details of like, oh, we're trying to do this to help him and everything. It's like he was slowly gaining FBI's trust until like he started getting his memories back, and then he flipped on everybody, so kind of betraying everyone. So what I really appreciate was the confrontation between him and like Roman and Kurt. Like I was not expecting Roman to be there himself, but it's like Dietrich called him as like, oh yeah, like he came in contact with you. So Roman came to check on things himself, and they're having this like back and forth and everything. And then like, you had Kurt being like, this was your last chance. You screwed up before now and everything, but you manipulated your own niece, trying to turn her against her own mother. This is family. And then like Kurt adds insult to injury by comparing Roman to Shepard. It's like, you doing what you did is the same thing as what Shepard did to you and Jane. And it's like, you're no better. And then you have Roman being like, you're lucky his glasses here, kind of protecting Kurt from him. It's like, to be fair. And I was so hoping Kurt was going to go, no, you should be glad, because it's like, I mean, just because he's the FBI and everything, he's not going to be so willing to like take Roman down. But I was halfway expecting him to be like, there's no more going back for you, Roman. You're going down. I'm going to take you down. But to be fair, no matter what the circumstances are, he's still Jane's brother. And it just kind of, well, there's a whole like you potentially killing her daughter situation. I think it still wouldn't be very favorable for you to kill her brother. Also, because it's just the fact of the matter is he's a good FBI agent. He wouldn't be crossing that line. But I think it's just a situation of like, I don't know. I think it'd still be an iffy situation, because I think even under these circumstances, I feel like even Jane, I mean, let's not forget, Jane had an opportunity to last season and she didn't do it, just because like Roman is still her brother. Their connection, their past, like, I mean, truth be told is like, that Roman is kind of the, like, no matter what the circumstances are now, that the position that he's in now, being the bad guy, he was the only good thing in her life back then, like that's the only family she really had to rely on. It's not like she had Shepard. Shepard was just kind of, she was their mom, but I think more so than anything, she was kind of a means to an end. At least that's how I feel about it. So it does present itself as an interesting situation. It's like I said, Avery's back with Jane and everything. Doesn't make what Kurt did disappear though. So, but it does seem like him and Jane are better. Even had this moment of him kind of saying like, hey, Clint is a good guy and everything. And it's like, and Clint's kind of like, hey, you and Jane, you'll get back together. He's like, I don't see it in the cards. He's like, she still loves you. He's like, I really wish she didn't, but she does, which is kind of like super interesting to me, because it is kind of clear, because it's like she never acted on any opportunity. Like, no matter how she feels about Kurt, like when she was at his hotel or anything, she relies on his opinion and stuff like that. And in this episode, because it's like, well, he's very good at his job with this whole situation of retrieving people and everything. They've worked on jobs together. And also that aspect of like, that also came out too, like they were slept together. There was a thing between them. And it's like, well, you didn't tell me about that. And Jane's like, really, Kurt, you want to play that game? It's like, maybe we should stop trying to protect each other, because all we do is cause more harm, with that whole situation. It's kind of like something, what else? It's kind of like Supernatural, just kind of comparing it. How Supernatural, it's like me and my, Sam and Dean always go back and forth protecting each other, and it kind of costs other people because of their need to do that. It was like, what if, it's kind of the same thing for Jane and Kurt, because it's like going back and forth. It's like, these lies and stuff, all we're doing is hurting each other. So kind of just making matters worse. So, but they both apologized in the end, because it's like, well, they both kept, they both did things they shouldn't have done. They kept stuff that they shouldn't have kept to themselves. So there's still an opportunity for things to kind of get repaired, but it's going to take a while. But you do hope, you're crossing your fingers hoping that they'll get there. I think they'll get there, but it will take some time, especially considering the fact that Clint's no longer in the picture. I mean, who's to say he won't pop up later on? He's going to get another job, obviously, is what he was alluding to. But it's like, who's to say him and Jane won't cross paths again? But like I said, wasn't expecting that. I thought that'd be a bigger storyline of like, oh yeah, her feelings for him, considering the fact is the place her and Kurt are at. But even then, it's like, no, she still has feelings for him just as much as he still has feelings for her. It's like, it's going to be a rough patch. It's not going to be easy, but it can still be done. Like, things are a little bit better because Avery is alive. Like I said, still a sucky situation, but at the very least, it's mediated by the fact is that Avery's back in Jane's life. To what extent? Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see about that whole situation. Now, on the other side of the episode, we dealt with Patterson's whole snafu with the whole, like, Wizardville game that she was a part of and everything. Basically, the backdoor hack that we kind of known about, but no one else on the team really knew about other than Rich. That coming out to light, which, interestingly enough, it doesn't seem like Patterson necessarily suffers any ramifications for that, at least in this particular episode. It's like, Reed's kind of like, we're going to talk about that later, but it's like, I don't know if she's going to necessarily suffer any punishment for that. I mean, because she's not the one that actually created the backdoor hack. She found out about it and knew about it, just didn't do anything, which I also thought the episode was going to take a somewhat different direction in certain regards, because I was thinking like, well, that includes Reed as well as Tasha's phones. I mean, because obviously they learned the truth about this in this episode. Reed, sure, I'm sure he did. Like, I mean, I thought was going to be interesting. I was like, well, Tasha works for the CIA. And it's like, well, to be fair, she's a CIA agent. She's not going to keep, like, compromising information on her phone. Who knows? Maybe she does. Maybe just because it's like, oh, you think you're... I feel like they've got, like, secure things. It's probably a situation of, like, once you have secure information, FBI as well as the CIA, like, in their case, it's like, they don't take any tattoo stuff, outside of the office. I mean, that they did that in season 1. That kind of didn't end too well previously, but so they're a lot more strict on that particular situation. So I would assume the CIA is the same way. Like, no concrete information is kind of to leave this place unless it's authorized or whatever, so I guess that wasn't even a concern, but part of me is still wondering. I mean, there's still always room and possibility to be like, oh, that could pop up later on, but I highly doubt it, because Tasha never looked worried during the episode, so Tasha was concerned about other things, though. She was kind of like, you could see at the moment, it was like, oh yeah, it's like, oh yeah, how is things between you and Meg? It's like, oh, where's Meg? She's out of town for a job and everything, for work and everything, and then her and Reed were hanging out, watching the game, they were just having fun, kind of like the old times, and then when he was talking to Meg, you see the look on her face, and it's just like, oh, it's so heartbreaking, because Tasha has feelings for her, but she can't really act upon it, just because she even breaks it up to Patterson later on in the episode, being like, should I tell Reed? Which, like, it's like, because maybe there's an off chance he feels the exact same way, which Patterson's like, the fact of the matter is, if you do go down that route, you have to open yourself up to the possibility. She kind of gets cut off because Rich comes in the room, but it's basically like, you might want to open yourself up to the possibility you might get rejected. He might not feel the same way, and it's just going to be weird and awkward, even though things were weird and awkward between them when Reed ended up kissing her last season. And just because like I said, I was under the impression that they were already dating and everything when it was all said and done, but who's to say anything really happened between them? And because that wasn't something until later on in this season, I was like, all right, they never actually did date, did they? Because nothing actually happened between them. They stayed good friends and everything. Maybe they were closing into it, but then, like, obviously they went their separate ways. Reed went up the food chain on the FBI. Tasha went to the CIA, so that what they had kind of dwindled too, but it's still there. But obviously Reed's in a relationship. Gets worse because Reed's actually proposing to his girlfriend Meg, which sucks because Tasha's just like, yeah, dude, oh my god, congratulations, she's gonna love it, and because she wanted to talk to Reed about their feel, especially with the whole thing that goes down with Boston and Rich. But I'll go ahead. Like, I figured that situation, I was like, I thought in actuality that was going to deter Tasha from telling Reed how she really felt, because Boston was basically ultimately like, well, it's too late. You waited too long. If you had told me this 2 years sooner, that's all I wanted to hear. But in actuality, in retrospect, it's like, well, no, because of what he said, it's like, no, it makes Tasha go, no, I need to say what I need to say now. But now it's like, well, it's too late now. So I'm still pulling for them. But then again, once again, there's still that whole angle of like, well, there's the CIA angle. So I don't think that's definitely going to get complicated later on, especially because remember, like, she had to choose her loyalties and everything, and her loyalty will always be to the CIA, and that would definitely get very complicated if she has feelings for Reed, and even though this is supposed to be her team and everything, so, you know what I mean. But the other side of the thing, it turns out that I thought was kind of interesting is the one behind all this hacking when it comes to the app is actually Boston, because Patterson actually went to him, and even Rich is offended. He's like, "What? You went to Boston instead of me?" It's like, well, she's like, "Well, the last time we met up with Boston over the course of the series, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we bonded, we became friends, and I thought we disagree, and we kind of he says mean things about me, but he's very good at what he does." And I was like, "Oh, we bonded, became friends," and he was one of the people that helped her with the app and everything. So I still love that that's part of her storyline, that she went off and kind of started like a super popular gaming app. I am curious to know, like, when it's all said and done, is it completely shut down or not? Because then I know Patterson was trying to shut it down, but she kind of got kicked out of it in the episode. But it's like, is the app still live? Did it close at the back door? Like, what's up with that? Because it's like 80 million people have that, It's like, oh yeah, over 70 million. And she's like, actually it's like 80 million now. So, but I also love Rich in this whole situation. Patterson's like, okay, you got to help me with this situation. And he kind of goes off on her, and she's like, what are you doing? He's like, okay, do you want me to like make you feel better, or do you want me to help you with this situation? She's kind of like, the second one. And then also Rich's reaction to the Boston being back and everything. It's like, whoa, you were Sanjay. Oh yeah, Sanjay, he's scum. He's the worst of the worst. He's part of the black, he's on the black web, the dark web side of things. He's selling weapons to people. And it's almost like, aren't you being a hypocrite? It's kind of what Boston says, because it's like, you're literally doing the same thing. It's like, because even Boston's kind of like, well, I guess I just have a type and everything. And then it's just like, then there was even one point where Sanjay made like a pun, when Boston was, had that wire on him and everything. And then you have like, you just have Rich and me like, oh geez, this guy's like, oh, hold hands so you can get rid of some of that negative energy. It's just like, I love Rich's reaction. And especially when it was all said and done, he came in, he's like, Boston, are you okay? Are you okay? And hugs him. And you see Sanjay looking at him, and then you see Rich kind of almost going like, yeah. It's like almost like a kid moment of like sticking his tongue out like, I win or something like that, which isn't necessarily the case, but it's just one of those sad situations of once someone's kind of gone from your life, you do realize, like, you see them back with someone else. It's like, oh, I do realize, like, I took you for granted, which turns out to be the case. And like I brought up earlier, Boston kind of turned him down of like, oh, like them kind of rekindling, because it's like he didn't say what he needed to say sooner. If he had said it sooner, things would be different. So, same thing kind of applies with Tasha. The same thing applies with Kurt. Like in situations that almost make you think, like, the fact of the matter is, in their cases, it's a little different. Like, if Tasha had said anything sooner, would it have been better, or would it have just complicated things between her and Reid? Once again, I still feel like, I don't know. Because, like I said, Reid is like, oh, yeah, like, I love her. Like, what do you expect? It's like, we live together. It's, like I said, his reasoning behind that, like, maybe it's just the way he worded it, but just him saying, like, oh, I love her, because we live together. So, of course, it's not strange for me to say that. It's like, it's almost like like I said at the time, it's almost like you're saying, like, because you live together, you feel like you're obligated to say you love her, whether you really feel that way or not. At the same time, it's like, maybe he'd feel differently if he knew how Tasha felt. Because, like, Reid was kind of the one that kind of made the move first. Because they are best friends, but that's a sad thing with this situation, because it's like, best friends could easily flow over to the intimacy of being more, especially in their particular case. And like I said, it's been screaming it since a while now. Not even just last season, but even this season, they've been screaming at Tasha, like, definitely still has feelings for Reid and everything, so it's kind of a sad situation. I am curious to see, will this mean, the fact is that Boston's going to be on house arrest and everything because, his part to play and all this. It's like, yeah, the people we were kind of messing around with were kind of douchebags, but still, okay, I committed a crime. Sanjay got locked up. I'm curious to see if that kind of circles back in the storyline in any shape or form. But I wonder, does this mean that, because Boston's on house arrest, will we see him more? Or is he just going to be in the nearby area so that he can kind of pop up in the story if we need him to? Maybe it could be an opportunity to rekindle the flames between him and Rich. I don't know. Because it's kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of neat because Hearst had brought that up a couple episodes back, being like, oh yeah, like she tried to use that as leverage against Rich. It's like, oh yeah, we can help you find Boston, or at the very least she knew where Boston was or something like that. So it's just kind of interesting she referenced that, because Rich had probably been looking for him, but Boston's very good at staying off the radar, and it's just like he happens to pop up in the story like that. I just thought that was kind of interesting. So overall, like, a great episode with everything that kind of went down. Obviously, Roman is not done. The fact of the matter is, It's also kind of interesting too because he brought up the proposal to like Kurt. It's like the fact of the matter is we're after the same thing. We want to take Crawford down. You might not like my approach to it, but we both want the same thing. But for Kurt, it's like yeah, we'll take Crawford down, but we'll take you down too. It's just kind of like the Shepard thing. Yeah, Shepard kind of brought up a lot of stuff that was bad for like the U.S. and stuff like that. She brought up and helped take down a lot of terrible people, but it didn't stop the terrible thing that she was doing. And look at what Roman's doing. Like Roman, a lot of Roman stuff so far has been pointing towards like, oh, I'm gonna take down this bad guy Crawford because everything's kind of ultimately connected to him. But the thing is, like, what are you getting out of this? It's the question. Once again, my theory is he wants to take over Rome. He wants to take over Crawford's, like, operations. Because it's like, why would you choose any other way? Because Shepard's whole reasoning because it's like, oh, we're doing this for the greaterment of the U.S. She's kind of a fanatic. That's understandable. But it's like Roman doesn't seem like he shows such allegiances. It was never his fight. He just kind of agreed to it because like, oh, Shepard said this is our fight. Okay, this is our fight. So that was it. But this is kind of his own game, which it seems more and more likely that it is. Because like I said, legitimately, like over the course, I've always kind of like, there's no way this is just Romans. There's got to be someone above him. But it's like, no, it seems like this is legitimately just Romans. This is his chessboard. So it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it still kind of catches me by surprise. I think I'm just one of those people who underestimates Roman because it's just like Roman was just kind of like the gun in most situations. Shepard was the one that kind of pointed him in the direction, but he was kind of, he was the weapon. But it seems like there's more to this weapon than meets the eye, essentially, So it's just like I said, I feel like I've underestimated Roman, so I kind of have to continue see how things kind of break down with this whole situation. So. But also Roman made the threat of like, oh, you think having your daughter back was a good thing? We'll see about that. Because the fact is she is very distrustful of Jane and there's no telling who she's become over the time. Like, because she had good parents, at least that's what she said and everything. Maybe there's more to that than we don't know. But it's like after her parents died and everything, like when being off on her own, how Roman met up with her, maybe she's kind of gotten into trouble on her own, like I said, brought up earlier, also like the conversation of why she agreed to do this. More so, like I said, it's kind of a middle finger to like the woman who quote unquote abandoned her because and this is all from the one. I mean, which is like, why did you take Roman's like? Because it seems like she's a bit of a grifter herself. So it's like, why would you take anything Roman says? I guess it's because he's like the real first family she's ever known. Because she probably knew about Jane. Well, it makes you wonder, did she even know about Jane until Roman came into her life? Because it's like, I mean, it makes you wonder how would she even find out about Jane? I mean, I guess there's the records and everything, but it's like, in retrospect, it's like, it didn't cross my mind to think about how she ended up getting a photo of Jade and knowing what she knew. I guess that should have been a red flag for both me and Kurt, because it's like, because I feel like it'd be hard, like, even if you found out her name, and like, how would you trace that back necessarily to Jane? Jane's with the FBI and everything, so how would you know even to look in that direction? Like, it had to be someone supplied her with it, but maybe the argument could be made, like, well, she made connections with people, and she was able to track Remy down. But like I said, her name would be Remy and not Jane. Like, I don't know. Especially because Jane never uses her name Remy for anything, she's no longer Remy, she's just Jane, so... I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it, so I'm very curious to see what this all takes us into the next episode, especially learning about, Avery's side of things. I'm curious to find out what her story has in store for us, so. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.